Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jenelle Riley. I'm the film and television editor of Backstage. And on behalf of Backstage and SAG Foundation, I'm so honored to welcome you to this event with Silver Linings Playbook. Just last week, this film earned 4 Golden Globe nominations and 4 SAG Awards, including 1 for Best Ensemble. And I'm thrilled to welcome 2 of the gentlemen who helped bring this film to life. First, please join me in welcoming the film's writer-director. He is an Oscar nominee for his work on The Fighter, and the filmmaker behind such movies as Flirting with Disaster and Three Kings. A true actor's director. Please welcome David O. Russell. Also joining us is the actor who plays Pat Sr. in the film. I literally do not have time to list all his accomplishments, so let me just say Travis Bickle, Jake LaMotta, The Godfather, my personal favorite, Rupert Pupkin. I am so thrilled, honored, and a little bit intimidated to welcome Robert De Niro. Thank you guys so much for being here. Congratulations on a movie that it's really touching so many people. I mentioned the SAG Award nominations. This is a SAG audience watching us at home. Robert, I just realized this is your first individual SAG nomination.
Yeah, it is, yes.
What was it like to get that call? I'm assuming it was a call.
I got some emails about it, but yes, it was very nice.
I mean, you've won everything. So being able to win or get nominated for something new must be fun.
Yeah, it's nicer to win than not.
Thank you for being honest. And out of curiosity, do you remember how you got your SAG card?
I think it was after I had done Greetings, or I think after Greetings.
Really?
Palma, I think around 67. 68, I think.
That's a Roger Corman film, correct?
No, that's a De Palma independent film, Greetings.
Really? One of his first, as I recall.
Yeah, the first was The Wedding Party, then we did Greetings, then we did Hi Mom, and then, as far as my working with him, I did The Untouchables next.
Wow. So obviously I want to talk about your collaboration on Silver Linings Playbook. How did the two of you initially meet? And I know that, Robert, you were a big fan of The Fighter. When did you discuss starting to work on this film?
David and I met years ago in a Starbucks, actually, on Columbus Avenue, and someone said we should meet. Jane Rosenthal said that, and so we had, and then over the year we run into each other, and then I saw The Fighter, and I thought it was just great, and then we started talking about some stuff, projects, and then he wanted to do this, and I said great, and that's how it started. And the book was different than the screenplay, the final screenplay that David had written, and then he said, I said, fine, I didn't care what, I knew whatever he's going to do was going to be terrific, so it wasn't an easy thing to worry about. I say, oh, now, he's written something different or something. He made it his own, as they say, and so that was important.
David, as a filmmaker, what's it like to get that call, Robert De Niro wants to meet you at Starbucks?
It's one of the greatest calls of my career as a filmmaker. I mean, he is one of my teachers, and he's a master. It's a great privilege to know him and to work with him. And so when I rewrote the role, it was to use every dimension possible. And many of our conversations, interestingly, were as fathers, and this is a role of a father. And so it's very much about a father with a huge heart. And I was just reviewing all the scenes that he does in the picture, and the range of emotion that he covers with great commitment and authenticity is huge. I mean, it goes from a kind of guarded concern and anger at his son at the start, to a kind of tender worry about trying how to help him, to rage and violence, trying to contain him when he's worried about violence happening with the wife, to the intensity about the bookmaking, trying to support the family. Very specific choices. Mr. De Niro taught all of us on the set how specific and how committed every choice is. down to asking his son about the pills and how many pills his son is taking, and counting his envelopes. And he's so invested in that it set the tone for the entire ensemble. You know, him and Paulie Herman I could listen to all day talk about what's a bigger icon, a cowboy or Benjamin Franklin or an eagle. And for him and Chris Tucker, a natural chemistry. Him and Bradley Cooper coming in from Limitless, a father-son energy. I told him and Jacki Weaver that they had a marriage where they still had sex. They both instantly understood that, and they felt very comfortable and real to everybody on the set. And the seriousness they brought, and the patience, even when the scene in an ensemble, whether it's Jennifer Lawrence, and you take it all the way through to the point where he rejects her angrily, furiously, fighting for his son's life from a moment of tenderness and tears that he surprised us with, to flipping in one scene to where he embraces her. I mean, this was very exciting, and there's nothing I can say. Obviously, I say a lot about it because I'm very excited about it. So I'm going to try to shut up now. Try to take the biggest lesson I learned from him, which is keep your mouth shut sometimes. Like in Goodfellas, you learn the two most important things: never rat on your friends, and keep your mouth shut.
And what did attract you to the part? I mean, do you generally choose your roles based on the filmmaker, based on the script, a combination of both?
Yeah, it's a combination of both, but with David, I had just seen what he had done, and there was no question that about working with him. I said, fine, ready, whatever you want to do, so you just, and like with Scorsese and certain directors, I would say pretty much if you have something I'm very interested, I'll always go the distance with them until the time I'll just be committed to it even before I see what the final thing will be, because I know whatever it'll be interesting.
But he talks about reading the book. I mean, his attention, his depth of curiosity to his craft. There's a childlike fascination and interest, which is a spark that is fantastic. This is a man who has nothing to prove, yet loves the craft so much that his attention to detail and the humility of how much he cared about everything, why everything was happening, what choices were being made. We debated the back half of the script. I mean, he's a collaborator with everybody. He would decide very carefully every decision. You can't calculate that's impact on the entire film, the entire ensemble.
Aside from reading the book, was there any other kind of research you put into playing Pat Sr., or was this a role that came to you pretty naturally?
Yeah, I mean, it came to me naturally, of course, in many ways. And I'm not a big football person at all. But it's the way that David directed it. He gave me a lot of the specifics, and of course that's such a help. And the way he directed us on the set created a certain immediacy and energy, spontaneity, where we had to work on our characters, obviously, and just what we were doing, what we were saying, and all that, and those were very specific. But at the same time, you had to be ready for any kind of a change, a left turn, a right turn, this, that, from David, even with the camera literally moving around and all of a sudden throwing a line at you, which was great, though. I mean, it keeps everybody on their toes, and it, as I say, creates an energy and a spontaneity and an immediacy.
I actually want to ask about that. For each of you, what was the most difficult scene to shoot, either from an emotional point of view or a logistical point of view?
Well, for me, I thought one of the toughest scenes was the one where Jennifer comes in, and we have this long discussion about the parlay and all that. And I just try to make sense of it all, and I knew that it was, and did make sense, and my concern that it would all be clear, and so we get the beats and everything. So that was, and then the end, the last scene where I give Bradley the kind of the final pep talk, if you will.
Monologue, yeah.
Yeah.
So Sean Levy, the director, who's is a great fan of the film, came forward and made an analogy which I had not realized, which is that there is a similarity between Christian Bale's talk to Mark Wahlberg in the end of The Fighter and saying, "This is your moment, this is your time, don't miss it." And that's, that's a very important emotional time in anybody's life. And it does happen. You can miss the exit, And so it was beautiful to see Bob prepare that so many times and want to do it so many times. It's very generous to all the other actors there. And every time he'd run into that dance hall, he was doing push-ups outside the door that Shea Wiggum and Chris Tucker and would watch, and they'd go, and he would talk to them as if they were for 2 days. We're just coming upstairs. We just saw the Dallas Cowboys win, and we run in out of breath for 2 days. And so that when you come in for the close-ups, all the emotions on his face. The dance is wonderful, but it's emotional. So it's about his face, Jacki Weaver's face, John Ortiz's face. If that emotion isn't real and from the heart, it's not going to land.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie is I want to say a simple scene, but no scenes are simple. It's a conversation that you have with Bradley near the end of the film when he's in bed and your character begins to cry. And from what I understand, that was not planned.
No, it wasn't planned, but the scene, for me, if it happened, you don't plan it. If it happens, it happens. You can't say, I'm going to do this, because then that sort of, if anything, will block you, at least for me. So working with David, by that time we have enough freedom. We know everything. He loves us all. We all love him. It's all great, seriously, and like a family. And so that you're going to do what you do, and you, as an actor, you should always feel that whatever you do is not wrong. The director will make the choice, but they'll never make you feel like I shouldn't have done that. It's always do whatever you want to do, and we'll figure it out later. And at the least, you do it your way, the actor, the director, you do it the director's way, and then you decide later in the editing. The director decides what he feels is best.
One of the neat tricks about that sometimes is once you've done it 4 or 5 takes and you say, okay, that's it, we're done. Everybody starts to exhale. They start to walk off the set to take a second, go to the bathroom, and you say, wait a minute, let's do it one more time. That's always good because something magical tends to happen. And that's when that happened. And he was never requested that he cry. It was never discussed. It was not in the script. And in the middle of the take, me and Bradley Cooper were kind of having a holy shit moment. And then afterwards we said, we're speechless, and we said, would you mind doing that again for another angle? And he did it 4 more times for Bradley's coverage, and it was all very real because everything is very real. That's the importance to me. That's what the whole film is. That's what The Fighter was. That's what this is. The authenticity of the emotion is what this film is. That's what we got. Like in the film, a very tough scene was when he beats up his son, which he loves his son. He wants nothing more than to connect with his son. And there's a great longing for that. And I relate it to my father. If you want to talk to my father, you're going to have to watch a lot of TV with him and a lot of sports. I understand. And I don't know, you got to find some language. There's some bridge in there. And suddenly then it opens up. It's like a Chinese puzzle or something. But and so he comes upstairs and he sees his wife fall to the ground, and we had to rehearse that very carefully. He's in his pajamas, and I always knew part of the heart of the movie was Robert De Niro, whose music, whose rhythm has informed my entire writing life. And now I'm finally getting to write for him, which is a wonderful rhythm that I can relate to because I'm half Italian-American, and it's just a rhythm I like. It's a New York rhythm that is the whole music of a movie is a rhythm. And he comes up the stairs in his pajamas, and I always knew that the heart of the movie was Robert De Niro in his pajamas walking across the lawn with the neighbors watching with a bloody nose. Because those moments of the soul and the heart seem to happen at that time, in the pajamas and with everybody saying, what is going down at that house? Something's going down. And he just inhabited it so really, and it's my son that he plays the scene with, who had to earn that right. And he was very patient with him, to watch him, and he didn't tell us what he was going to do, which is wonderful spontaneity of him as an actor. And so the door opened, and he went after Matthew, who has. That's the whole reason I made the movie, is that I wouldn't have paid attention to these 5 years ago from Sidney Pollack, because my son has struggled with many of these matters himself. That's why I wanted to do it. And he went at him, and my son started laughing nervously, and. I said, you can't. This is the real deal. He said, but it's like Jake LaMotta. It's like he said, it's like Jake LaMotta's coming at me. I said that, but you got to play it real. And eventually, he taught us all. He said, that's okay. Wait a minute. He said, that is real. You know, a teenage kid, if a man in his pajamas, enraged. I mean, people are scarier when they're in their pajamas. That's why everybody on Cops is in their pajamas and their underwear, you know, and they don't care. There's a whole lot of I don't care when you're in your pajamas, right? I don't care. And when someone doesn't care, they're going to hurt you. So, you know, so Bob taught us all, and he said, "That's okay, let him laugh. I'll play it." And I didn't know what he was going to do, and he did it perfect. It was just it's like a Ferrari, you know. He goes 3 beats, boom, boom, boom. He goes, "I'm going to come back here. I'm going to smash that camera over your head. Then I'm going to come back and interview what it's like to have that camera broken over your head. What are you laughing at? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Good night." That's boom, boom, boom. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. You can't. That's a great gift to cinema. I'll shut up now.
His laughing is a nervous laugh, obviously, and it's totally understandable that that's his reaction, especially his son, because he wasn't, he's not a, if you say professional, whatever, he's just reacting and that's great. You just go off that.
And you are also a very accomplished director. As directors, what do you hope for from actors when they come to set?
I want actors to feel the heartbeat of the film, and as Bob said, to feel part of the family, for us to have feel an emotional connection about the role, and we're together in it, you know. So we're both willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen, and that's the greatest gift I can ask for. And I get the best ideas from my collaborators, and sometimes they're right and sometimes I'm right. And I thank God in the editing room we both took our cracks at it, you know, because you don't know. Sometimes you just don't know. So all I can hope for is the flexibility and openness and trust. And I want to make them have my trust and feel safe.
And for you?
No, I absolutely what everything that David's saying, and just with it's all about trust. It's all about feeling that as an actor you can do anything and try anything, because if you shut that down, you get nothing, and you get, all right, just tell me what to do and I'll do it, you know. You really, that's how you get the best out of anyone, and not even just the actors, the crew, everybody, the whole creative, all the creative moving parts. It's very, very important to have that, and not say that you know, because you don't know. I'm saying, look, I'm trying to figure this out myself. What do you think? This, that, what could we do? I mean, I have an idea, and if I see something that looks, doesn't feel right, I'll say, well, I'm not sure about that. But if you want to try it, go ahead, you know, and we'll see. You know, we do it, you're doing it, we'll do it this way, we'll do it that way. We'll figure it out, and you know.
And I have to ask, will you be directing again soon?
I don't know. I always wanted to do another sequel to The Good Shepherd, but it's so hard, and I have a great idea for that story, but it's just so difficult. It's an uphill battle. I always have so much respect for David, Marty Scorsese, who you have to constantly, when you're directing a movie, it's the actors don't see it really. Nobody sees it, and nobody really experiences it except the person who has to really be the one to say no or yes, and that's the director. He's making the choices. And it's a tremendous amount of pressure, and you have to try and keep steadfast, keep what you know is right, and at the same time you have to listen to everybody. You have to make compromises. You just have to do that, and it's good. You'll get good ideas, but at the end of the day, you finally have to make your own decision in order to make it be something special and specific, because that's the only way it is that way. And like Kazan, I think, said you have to be part gangster, part this, part that. You know, you really have got to, and he'll tell you, and Marty Scorsese, you know, he goes through that all the time. It's very, very, people mean well, the people who are producing, and the other side, that's all part of the job, the money, and it's just a balance. But it's a very stressful one, because you're always, and I always joke with directors, I say, boy, I'm glad you're in there, you know, I'll back you, I'm there, but boy, I don't want to go through what you're going through now about whether you have 2 days for the scene or a day and a half, and what you have to cut from it and all that. And it's,
I want to take some audience questions because we have them from all around the world. And David, a lot of people want to know if you were ever intimidated or if you ever held back when directing Robert. And what's it like to work with a living legend?
Yes, I was intimidated, and you just have to be very respectful, you know. And he's very respectful, you know. So you just want to let him know when he wants. He lets you know when he wants direction. Is pretty much the deal, you know. And then there's a conversation about it. I mean, this is a movie that was 33 days, 152 pages. When he showed up at that house, he didn't leave that house all day. He didn't go to a trailer. He didn't go anywhere. He just stayed in that house. And he would just sit there. Again, you can't...
A couple of times I went to the trail.
One time you had the mozzarella there that me and Bradley Cooper were so sorry we ate because it sat like lead after... it was the best mozzarella ever, is in Israel. But anyway, yes, you have to be respectful, and it's just a gift to have him there. I'm writing another role for him that I, knock on wood, hope we'll be able to do, because I think it's a treasure to have this man do what he does best anytime we can get him to do it, you know, and I can't get enough of it, you know. I mean, so personally, that's my feeling.
Robert, it's kind of a strange question, but from your point of view, are you aware that when you come on a set, I mean, everyone there is a fan, everyone looks up to you. I guess what I'm asking is, what's it like being a living legend?
Well, I don't. You know, when you're working with people and people are, if they are in the beginning intimidated or whatever, then that goes away soon enough because you have to get to work, and I'm not aware of it. Sometimes I don't know what people feel or if they are feeling that or whatever. You know. I certainly didn't feel it from Jennifer Lawrence.
Well, she's a good actor.
She's wonderful. I mean, she was just great. Boy.
I know for a fact Jennifer was very excited to be working with you.
She was just great.
Speaking of, I should mention this amazing ensemble. David, you're obviously one of the best directors out there putting together flawless casts. And Robert, we mentioned that you had worked with Bradley before in Limitless. Did that make it easy to step into the role of playing his father?
Well, of course it did, and then Bradley and I have become friends, and so we have a built-in relationship that you of course take advantage of, and so that never hurts. Mm-hmm. Let's put it that way. Yeah, of course.
And what's it like working with Chris Tucker?
Well, Chris was terrific too. He's very funny. He was great, and I think he was used well in the movie. Mm-hmm. So.
And David, can you talk about putting together this varied ensemble? I mean, you have Jacki, who's Australian. You know, you have Chris, who hasn't done a film in like 10 years, I think. I think it's been 10 years.
Since 2007, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm bad at math.
No, that's okay. No, it's a great gift because it all comes together properly, you know. And it's just a beautiful thing when it does, you know. So the family feels right. I mean, Jacki was so fantastic in Animal Kingdom, and she really holds the screen every time the camera goes to her. She's fully present emotionally. That's critical. If it was somebody who wasn't focused or didn't understand what their role was, it could have really hurt everything. Instead, she became the pillar of the house with Bob. You know, she's so real as that Philadelphia mother. We had a whole subplot about her that we worked with her about her spiritual life that you couldn't keep in the film, but that was a big part of her character. Shea Wiggum from Boardwalk Empire, such a wonderful, hardworking actor who was so grateful to play the older brother and to work with Robert De Niro, and was just perfect. You know, when his eye twitches with a tear, he thinks, you have to tiptoe around these people who are charged and have emotional issues. And he says, I can't even tell you I'm getting engaged or buying a house because you may feel competitive and you may lose it. You know, and you don't know what's going to happen. And then I always like watching Shay's eye twitch when Bradley says, I got nothing for love for you, because he's really twitching with emotion and he starts to cry. He really brought it. Chris Tucker, every time he walks on screen, it's great because when a character lines up with who they are in real life, like Bradley Cooper, he's running around town reintroducing himself to people, saying, you don't really know me. That lines up with who he is as an actor, for me. Maybe not for him, but for me. He's not the guy from The Hangover. And when you meet him in his eyes, you see there's a lot more going on there. That's exciting. Chris Tucker's been away. Every time he walks back into the movie, it's like a guy who could have been in a hospital. Where was he? I don't know. But he walks in and he always knows the legal language. if one of your two supervising physicians loses their license, your whole adjudication is thrown out. He's the big improviser who had to remember, if they don't renew your mental hygiene law before the maximum length of your felony sentence, then they got to let you go. And and we none of us, that's the real law. And he had to memorize that for a guy who is Mr. Improviser, and that was hard for him to do, but he did it. And who else we got? John Ortiz, so wonderful. John Ortiz gave a soul to that character in that marriage with Julia Stiles. John Ortiz came and said, I wanted an authentic person who felt like a neighborhood person. And John just was it. And he brought a soul to the character. He said, David, this man is not happy. And I said, that's not possible. Every other character in the movie's not happy. You're the guy with, you're the guy with the wife and the kid in the car. And he said, no, I don't think he's happy. And I said, I think this guy's he's trying to change the movie. And I realized he was right. And it was a brilliant idea to have the guy who has all those things be straining and say, don't tell anybody, I'm not open. And we can all relate to that, because that's the beautiful thing about the Jennifer and the Bradley characters is that it's a bigger version of all of us. They're struggling with what all of us, but it's so much bigger, but it makes everybody cut the crap and be straight up about what they're feeling. And so that was a beautiful thing. And Julia Stiles was perfect as sort of the wife trying to make everything perfect and trying to reach out to her sister, but also always trying to be better than her, and she could be called out by Jennifer in that.
Obviously, a lot has been made about the chemistry between Bradley and Jennifer, which is off the charts. But I love the chemistry between everyone in this cast, and I would love for you and Jacki to be my parents. Was that, and I actually think that's a beautiful love story. Was that chemistry with her instantaneous, or did that develop? Had you met before?
No, I hadn't. I'd seen her in Animal Kingdom, and she was terrific in that. But I didn't, I didn't know. I wasn't even sure if she was. He had chosen Jacki and said, she should play the part. I said, yeah. I really wasn't sure, but she was great.
Yeah.
I was happily surprised. I didn't have reservations. I just didn't know, and he saw what the potential was.
You can see when it happens, though. When you put them together in that first scene, they just hang on each other like people who've been married a long time, and that's just great acting. They both just went 100% right there, just touching each other in that way that people aren't even conscious of when they're married. Putting a hand or an arm, you could always feel it.
The way you sit in bed together is, I believe you guys have been married for 40 years. Another audience question: are you still learning things about acting at this point in your career?
Of course, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Every movie I do, I always learn something as an actor, as a director, everything. It never stops, never.
We had some people asking if you ever work with coaches anymore or take classes.
No, I don't, but I could possibly for certain things, but I focus more on just what the character is as opposed to a coach per se. So no, I don't.
And just to reiterate, you are not a football fan.
No.
He's not he's not a sports fan, which is hysterical.
Well, then let me say you are a very good actor. I think you have a bright future. I want to thank both of you for being here today. Congratulations again on a beautiful movie. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.